Xbox rebrand, basically, going back to, drawing from the inspiration from like the early 2000s when like they were that, bright neon green, color. So this is coming since Asha Sharma took over as Xbox CEO. And I remember when like it first was announced, just complaints, 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 right? But so far, most of those bros are starting to like
Mhm.
take, back the negativity, right? Mostly because she's lowered the price of the Game Pass, which is essentially unheard of, lowering prices in this economy. She dropped the Microsoft Gaming and returned it to the Xbox name across the whole division. Um, Ended the This is an Xbox campaign, announced Project Helix, started reevaluating their approach to exclusivity, committed to flexible pricing and fan requested console features, and revealed this new logo that really fits their dark sci-fi aesthetic, that's like original to the Xbox. So the name change reverses the 2022 rebrand from Phil Spencer that after the merger with Activision Blizzard, that kind of just made it a lot more bland and really made it fit more with like the overarching Microsoft brand than it did leaving it with, the Xbox logo. And it made it seem very like corporate and bleak, as opposed to being punk rock, kind of like what the Xbox started as. Like now that we're kind of seeing, these changes she's making, really seems as if she's going back to like the actual love of the game and like paying attention to like what the fans are saying. So I'm not very big on like, in the gaming world, but it has been great to kind of see a retrench into previous brand aspects that they know have worked. And this is something that I feel like we've discussed here a couple times, like when we had the whole Cracker Barrel, logo incident, that sometimes trying to modernize your brand does more harm than it
Mhm.
does to just go back to like first principles of like, this is what our customers like us for. It's like, it's been amazing to see her kind of like, retrench, knowing that that's like the best way to make the brand work, and
Mhm.
then slowly proving to like, the people that, to the to gamers that like she knows what she's talking about because she's bringing it back to that. Now, Christina, I know that you kind of like gaming and your kids like it. So I would
Yeah.
love to know your thoughts here, and like what you think.
Yeah, so I married a gamer and then I brought
Yeah,
2 more gamers into the world, and so
there you go.
I've been absolutely following this story. I think a lot of us Phil Spencer was such an institution at Microsoft. We also lost Sarah Bond too, and so when they both left, obviously any change is going to create uncertainty for
Mhm,
customers, for fanboys, for everyone in between, and so I definitely was one of the people who's like, "I'm not gonna make any judgments, but I'm kind of worried. Like,
mhm,
how is this gonna go? What is this gonna look like?" And when she was presented as the heir apparent, it was kind of led with what she's come from is she's led AI divisions. And so for
mhm,
gamers who are like, "Oh no," they kind of already assumed like where this was going to go. And so it's been really lovely to see that she's very clearly listening to the fans to figure out what they want. The This is an Xbox campaign is kind of notoriously hated both internally and externally. There's a lot of the work that I do has been doing more and more into sociology, and so when you look at Xbox gamers versus like basically like they call them like Sony ponies versus like Xbox fanboys,
mhm,
and
mhm,
so there is a deep social like identity theory around those fans and how they identify themselves, what they kind of like pledge allegiance to, how
mhm,
they cheer for Xbox when they get an exclusive that Sony doesn't get. Like it's very territorial. And
mhm,
so the This is Xbox campaign for people who don't know was it was basically a this phone, well, this is an Xbox because it can play Xbox games, or this computer is an Xbox because it can play Xbox games. But what it was doing is it was removing the core identity from the console itself, which was
mhm,
obviously very off-putting for a lot of gamers. And so I love the going back. I love the logo. It's giving Xbox One. Like
mhm.
it's giving all of those. And so as long as we don't see the red ring of death, I think we're going to be
Yeah.
fine. But it's been really lovely. I mean, you can tell like
Yeah.
the gamer pass. number had like the price has gone down monthly in a world where every other subscription is going up for no
Mhm.
reason at all. Obviously the logo and the rebrand, but I mean, so far it seems very clear that she's been listening to the customers, and I'm obviously a big fan of that. So I'm happily surprised
Mhm.
and loving it so far. So I'm very happy that they found their footing and they listened.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I think one of the favorite tweets that I saw was pairing the like ratatouille, the character when he eats the ratatouille for the first time and he remembers when he was a little boy, right? And so
Yeah.
pairing the new logo with like the bright green, console that like was one of the originals that the gamers had. And I think that playing on that nostalgia, I think it's like the first like major brand and certainly of the ones that we've spoken about here that has like really gone full tilt into nostalgia and
Mhm.
had that been the play, right? And
Yeah.
I think it's so
I think you could
smart to
compare it to
play to that.
Burberry.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So it's like it's a heritage play, but, like,
Right.
Xbox's heritage is different. It's not gonna be, like, going through the Cotswolds and having, like, the plaid, but I think it's definitely the same play. It's they're going back to their roots.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know, which is kind of crazy to think about for us millennials that the 90s are now like roots and like heritage.
Yeah.
But I think that that's like what works, where it's like, okay, let's go back to that original feeling of opening up, the box that you get on Christmas Day, right? Or your
Yeah.
birthday or whatever, and celebrate that feeling and have it be, a reversion to the actual like gaming, right?
Mhm.
So I thought, she's done like like an excellent job to like really, tap into that feeling of nostalgia without making it kitschy.
Yeah.
Which I feel is like what happens with so many other brands that kind of like are are in it to kind of like it doesn't seem like they're legitimate about it, right? And I think that's usually where, when you kind of go after nostalgia for like nostalgia's sake, but
Yeah.
without understanding what it is that your customer actually wants from you, you
Yeah.
know, it's all these things tied together. It's the logo, yes, but it's also she's, bringing the prices back down, which obviously is a huge thing that like people are thinking about right now, right? When like, especially with tariffs, right? So it's been, a good way for them to position themselves up against like their largest competitor. So I'm glad that it's going in that direction. And then in terms of the Microsofts of it all, right? Like it just never made sense for me to kind of have it get enfolded under the umbrella of Microsoft
Mhm.
because Microsoft is seen as boring and corporate and just all these things, right? We saw similarly with OpenAI, right? Where it's like, they have to kind of really try to set themselves apart from it because they don't want the like why is Microsoft involved in this,
Yeah.
so the fact that now they're kind of like separating themselves from like Microsoft, going for like Xbox and using that as like their core like brand makes so much more sense for me, and I think it's going to give them a lot more freedom to go a little bit more out there with their
Mhm.
marketing, with their positioning, with like the customer, like the ICP that they're going after, and really hone in on like being the like gaming console for like actual gamers. Okay. So huge lesson here for me is when you're doing a course correct, try to do everything at once so that it all kind of, comes together and it's not just a standalone thing, right? Yes, the logo would have been like its own moment, but the fact that it's like the pricing, the name, the campaign, the exclusivity, and all these features makes more people pay attention. And it's really showing that like she's to be trusted as like not just the CEO, but as someone that like wants the brand to succeed. And that's like the best thing she's done here, where it's like it's boom, 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 just like one thing after another. The other thing I'll say is I saw the photo that she posted of like We Are Xbox,
Mhm.
which showed like her like in a super, casual outfit. I like that she's not right on like the dais, like the stage itself,
Mhm.
because she's kind of like, showing like, hey, I'm here to like represent you, yes, as CEO, but like take in everybody's ideas. It's showing a united front basically for all these
Mhm.
changes. So I think, people are excited to see that kind of message.
Absolutely.